11 when he
Lewis's room
disappeared,
smelled
yes.
very, very familiar. That part of him lived on.
Marijuana. Drugs and alcohol, eh? Wait, I didn't want to go here.
Lewis and I spent a lot of time playing games together, but he was surprisingly bad at them. He died a lot.
Alright, let's find out what happened to him.
Dear Mrs. Finch, as Lewis's psychiatrist, I can understand your desire for an explanation. As I see it, the trouble began in January, shortly after we convinced your son to seek treatment for substance abuse. Newly sober, I believe Lewis first noticed the monotony of his daily life. He kept working at the cannery, but he withdrew part of himself. In our sessions, I saw the same behavior. His mind began to wander. I asked him to describe it. He
The
said
game
he
design
started
in this is
small,
incredible.
imagining a labyrinth. He'd feel his way about. Then something moved. Bats. And toads. And things that have not names. He knew it was all in his head.
Okay, I need to get better at working. I'm getting backlogged. Fish are piling up. Come on. Oh no, they're coming in too quick.
But he took it very seriously. I had hoped he'd find himself. But he found something more.
Oh.
I worried about him then. Daydreaming at the cannery. I spoke with his boss. But he said Lewis had become a model employee. Methodical, tireless, focused.
Yeah, gets his mind on someone else.
Like a whole new Lewis. So I let him go on. I even encouraged him.
This gameplay is insensitive.
It seemed very promising at first. He told me he'd made a new friend. On the edge of a city he named Lewis Topia. He built the city up slowly, brick by brick. Then he made musicians. And songs for them to play.
There's always a career for you in the fish factory, bro. Yes.
He talked about starting a band. And he was always humming something. Every day his imagination grew stronger. He no longer spoke at the cannery. But his chopping was as reliable as ever.
Oh, I got stuck.
Then one day it struck him that all the cheering crowds, even the stones under his feet, were all in his imagination, so he could do whatever he wished. He held an election for mayor, and he won. They begged him to stay, but his mind was already wandering. It became a game for him.
Wow. This
He'd
is
conquer a
remarkable.
city, then immediately push on. New Louisville. St. Louis. He started drifting away from our reality. Minneapolis. Until one day he forgot to go home from the cannery. Even as his mother pleaded with him, part of Louis kept sailing on. In Louisburg, he heard rumors of a
Handsome queen.
handsome queen.
I like that you can choose. It's a nice touch.
The queen was on her own quest for
Radiant rainbows.
radiant
This is-
rainbows.
This is incredible. This game is so creative, and like, this is a game that is artistic.
He followed
Like,
the sound of her
this is game as art.
electric sitar.
Don't miss checkpoints.
His chase led him to a golden palace east of the sun and west of the moon.
I wonder where I would be if I'd gone to the right.
Even then, his logic remained sound.
Wow, you can barely see anything anymore.
He knew the world was all in his imagination. But he was so proud of having created it. In his own eyes, he'd become something greater than a king.
All the while, still cutting fish. Indeed, I'm
For
still
someone who'd never
chopping
known
away.
success in the real world, I think it was overwhelming. And then it struck him that the real Louis was not the one chopping salmon, but the one climbing the steps of a golden palace. My imagination is as real as my body, he told me. It was hard to argue with him.
That was quite the come down.
He began to forget the world we know. I think it pained him to remember Louis, the cannery worker. began to despise the man with a royal contempt.
The shadow, and see like how his character, how he was.
I still thought I could save him. Even after he said he was being crowned king over all the lands of wonder. The palace would be packed with his companions.
Oh, what a scumbag!
Including the wise Calico who'd insisted on inviting him.
Giros with 100 bits, thank you Amazon Prime. Also, hey, look, I'm famous. Thank you Giros for the bits. And Gorball with the 10 months. Tactical distraction, is this still a thing? It is sometimes, actually. Thank you guys for the bits and the subscription.
His queen waited, holding his crown. There was only one thing left to do.
Oh, I saw it. I saw it.
Bend down his head. And the rest I think you know. Mrs. Finch, your son was a kind man who will be missed by all of us who knew him.
My brother was really cool. I wish you could have met him.
22.
He was so proud of being Indian. I think for him, it was a way to be something other than just a Finch.
Heavy game. Heavy game.
On the way back from Lewis's funeral, my mom told me to start packing. She waited until the day before we left to tell Edie.
Ah, that's why we left. I said we. Oh. Silly me.
I'm not sure if she wanted to make it easier or harder. I wish we'd stayed. But I understand why we left.
I wonder if this was her room.
My mom ended up leaving everything behind.
Oh.
What happened that night had been coming for a long time. Maybe it should have come sooner. But it had to end one way or another. All that's left now is to tell you about that last night.
Okie dokie. I don't have these two. Do I still have that to do, or have I just missed them? I mean, I don't have these, but I haven't had any of these, so I'm guessing they're not. Maybe I've missed them. Maybe I don't know how it all works. Oh yeah, I don't have a mother either. We'll see. Ah.
That whole last day, Edie just watched us pack and didn't say a word. Until supper, when she raised her glass and said,
"To our final night together, and all our final nights apart."
Grandma, you know what I said about alcohol. Some of your medications are very
Edith,
specific.
I left a present for you in the hallway. Why don't you go open it? The grown-ups have to argue now.
I'm sorry, you're right. We're all leaving tomorrow. Let's just enjoy our last...
I'm not leaving.
Edith, you're excused.
the power had been shut off that morning, but Edie always had plenty of candles. When my mom sealed the library, I don't think she knew about the other entrance, or that Edie had a key to it.
Library time.
That thing you're afraid of isn't going to end when you leave the house. Edith has a right to know these stories.
My children are dead because of your stories. I think it's best if Edith and I leave tonight. We'll have the nursing home send a van for you in the morning. Okay?
History of the Finches by Edith Finch. Okay.
Dear Edith, there's so many stories I wish I could tell you, but there's only time for one. This is about what happened on the night you were born. That night, the tide went way, way out. It was the first and last time I ever saw the old house aground. There'd been an earthquake out in the middle of the ocean. They called it the lowest tide in 1,000 years. God, it smelled awful. You know, I've seen that house every day of my life. But I never thought I'd go back to it. When the fog rolled in, I lost my way. I got turned around.
Issues.
For a while, I wandered. I started seeing things.
Totally lost. Fog Fred.
Things I'd forgotten had ever existed. But when I saw them, they felt like old friends. That night, a lot of things came back to me. Or maybe I came back to them. Things I can't explain, but that I need you to try and...
Edith, what are you doing in here?
It's mine!
Edith!
Mom, you're gonna rip it! Let go! I kicked and screamed, but Mom dragged me to the car. I never saw Great-Grandma Edie again.
Aww.
The next morning, the van came to pick her up, but she was already gone. After that, we moved around a lot. We both tried to make the best of it. A few years went by. My mom didn't like to talk about it, but she started getting sick a lot. The rest happened pretty quickly. She got better for a while, and then she didn't. And then I was alone. The last Finch left alive. Until I found out about you. I'm still not sure what to tell you about all this. If we lived forever, maybe we'd have time to understand things. But as it is, I think the best we can do is try to open our eyes. And appreciate how strange and brief all of this is. This journal was supposed to be for you. But now I hope you'll never see it. I just want to meet you and tell you all these stories myself. But I guess if you're reading this now, things didn't work out that way. This is where your story begins. I'm sorry I won't be there to see it. It's a lot to ask, but I don't want you to be sad that I'm gone. I want you to be amazed that any of us ever had a chance to be here at all. Good luck.
Oh no! This game. Superb. Superb, like absolute top draw game. Like, all the feels. Incredible story, incredible storytelling. Incredible gameplay, mechanics, all that kind of stuff. What a good game. I forgot that we were... The first part of the game, you're reading the diary, the journal. And then throughout the rest of the game, within that, you go in and read all these journals and all these last messages of people who've died. Completely forgetting that you've done the same thing at the very start. Exactly the same thing. We went in, started getting the story of her, but all the time she was dead. It was exactly the same mechanic. You just forget about it. Odin I didn't get. Okay, it was Odin was the only one that I didn't get. Well, I mean, let's do it. Let's go for having all of it. Let's go for having all of it. That was on the bit you missed in Edie's room. How did I miss that? Oh, this was really early on. I went straight over this way. How did I miss that?
The room was like a museum.
I can't remember what I did in this room to have missed that. Let's watch.
For 500 years, the Finches have been famous throughout Norway for their fortune and misfortune. Odin Finch buries the latest victims of the family curse, his wife Ingeborg and their newborn son, Johan. On January 7th, 1937, he set sail with his family and his house, hoping to leave the curse behind. But 40-foot waves off the coast of Washington send the house and Odin to the bottom of the sea.
Oh, that's the old house that they were going on about, okay.
Odin's daughter Edie, with husband Sven and baby Molly, step ashore on their new home, Orcas Island.
I'm disappointed I missed this. This would have made
Odin
the story
Finch
make
is the first
even
to
more
be buried
sense.
in the new family cemetery. His daughter Edie is already dreaming of a new Finch house.
This was quite a key part that I missed. Damn it. Okay. Such a small section as well that I missed.
This family, it goes back a long ways.
I guess, to be honest, I guess I got the gist of the start. I mean, yeah, I missed out that bit, but I got the gist of the story apart from that. Without that, I guess. It wasn't too big of a deal. Well, there you go. It's all done. What a game. What a fantastic game. Absolutely incredible. One of the best games, story-wise, gameplay-wise, from an artistic perspective. It's just fantastic. Emotions. Emotional, man.